Chapter 5.2, Reconciling a Bank Statement and Recording a Bank Service Charge. Reconciling a bank statement is extremely important in terms of cash control. What we're going to do today is basically we're going to compare what we think we have versus what the bank says we have. It's extremely important that you do this. It's also extremely important that you do not rely on what the bank says, because there can be errors. And you know what? There also could be opportunities where you might have more money than you don't realize, or you might have less money than you don't realize. It's very important that you reconcile a bank statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to prepare a bank statement reconciliation. We're going to use May 31st of the current year as the date. So we're going to take May 31st, put a date over there. This is when we're going to do this. Now we're going to record, if you notice here, we're going to record a service charge on check stub number 312. Well, a service charge could be anything from using an ATM that's out of network to ordering checks to whatever. But it's either way, it's a service fee. And if you notice in there, our bank service charge here is $15. We'll just say it was for checks or overdraft protection or what have you. So now what we're going to do is our total bank charges then are $15. So now we're going to go and we're going to reconcile. The way you can really kind of figure out this reconciliation of a bank statement is on the left-hand side is what we say we should have, and on the right side is what the bank says we should have. At the end of the day, once again, typical in accounting, the left side has to equal the right side. In other words, what we say we have needs to balance and equal what the bank says we have. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Well, what's our balance on check stub, on our latest check stub? Well, our balance on check stub number 312 is actually $1904.78, so we're going to put that right there. And then our adjusted check stub balance. Well, if our balance on our check stub is $1904.78 and we have a bank charge of $15, we're actually going to subtract, because a bank charge is taking out of our balance that we have, and we will get a number of $1889.78. So that's what we say we should have. That's what we believe how much cash we have in our checking account. Well, let's see if the bank agrees. Balance on the bank statement, if you take a look there, is $1726. We'll write that there. Do we have any outstanding deposits? Now, an outstanding deposit is a deposit that has yet to clear. Let's just say, on May 31st, this bank statement was printed. Let's say we're doing this on June 1st, or let's just say on May 31st in the afternoon after 1 o'clock, we deposited some items. That's how it could be outstanding. But an outstanding check is outstanding deposit, and an outstanding check are items that haven't yet appeared on the bank statement. They're in the bank, but maybe there was a time lapse where they crossed paths and didn't appear on each other. So, do we have any outstanding deposits? Yep, in this case we do. We have an outstanding deposit of $742.25. We made that deposit on May 30th. So, like I said, when we made the deposit, this was already in the bank statement was already in the mail, and we're there. So, our balance is actually higher because of this outstanding deposit than what we say. So, we need to make sure that we add that to our bank statement balance. And that's so we're going to add $74.25. That gives us a subtotal of $2468.25. Now we want to take a look at outstanding checks. These are checks that people have written, that we've written, that maybe not have cashed. Maybe a person hasn't deposited them yet. Maybe it got lost. Maybe it got deposited similar to the outstanding deposit, where it was deposited and you know what? It just didn't get there in time, and the bank statement was printed before the checks were cleared. So either way, not a big deal. But we want to make sure we reconcile these so that we don't think we have more money than what we actually do. So we're going to write the check number. In this case, it's 310, and the amount, which is $531.22. We're then going to write the next outstanding check number, which is $311.47.25. We're going to add those two together, and our total is $578.47. Well, we're going to take our balance minus our outstanding checks, because remind you, our outstanding checks, it's money we don't have. We've already written that check off to somebody else, so we don't have that money, so we need to take that out of our balance, and we need to come up with our adjusted bank balance. And if we did it correctly, our adjusted bank balance will be $1889.78, and in this case it is $1889.78. And that is how you balance your bank statement. Once again, can't drive home the point alone. Don't just rely on looking at the internet to see how much money you have. The reason being is there outstanding deposits or outstanding checks that are out there. They're not going to show up. You might have too much or not as much money as you thought you had. So keep it in balance. Do it the old-fashioned way and reconcile the bank statement. Now, if you look, we have one more thing we have to do is we have to record the service charge on page 10. We want to use memorandum 58. Now, if we have a service charge, you might be wondering, why are we using a memorandum and not using a check? Well, a bank does not issue a check when you pay a bank for a service charge. It just automatically takes it out of your account. So no check is written. So the source document for objective evidence is actually the memorandum. And that is why, because we're not writing a check. We never did write a check. The bank just took it out. They have that power. So it's pretty simple. What you want to do is we're going to journalize it. So what this service charge is actually an expense. So, and what we don't have now, as you can see based on the deposit on the check stub, is we don't have cash. So we're going to be crediting cash and we're going to be debiting their expense. So we're going to take our service charge of $15. This happened earlier. If you look on it, this happened on May 31st. Now the account title we're going to use here is called miscellaneous expense. We're not going to call it bank expense. We're not going to call it anything else. The reason we're calling it miscellaneous expense is because this doesn't happen very often. Hopefully it doesn't, but if it did happen quite often, then you would have a bank service charge expense or an account similar to that would explain it. But since it doesn't happen that very often, we're going to use the miscellaneous expense. Our document number here is M58 is in the directions, okay? And it's an expense, so therefore an expense has a normal balance of a debit, and this is an increase in one of our expenses, so we are going to debit that account $15. And what we don't have is we don't have cash, and therefore since we don't have cash, we have $15 less cash, we are going to credit cash by $15. And that is how you prepare a bank statement, you reconcile it, and that's how you record a service charge if you ever do incur one. Hopefully you don't, but they do happen.